here. I am sleep deprived. I am working overtime on this. I actually got one day off. So, from my four part-time jobs and full-time school to try to delve into a little bit of what I've been finding from my research and watching my favorite podcasters on the Charlie Kirk situation. So, I titled this video New World Order Novus Ordo Seclorum. You probably have seen old videos of George Herbert Walker Bush Sr. talking about the New World Order. And a lot of people have been talking about this in elite circles, Hollywood celebrities, and stuff like this. You followed things like the Diddy case, where a federal court has kind of found him not guilty of some things, which is absolutely bogus. We know that this guy is wrapped up in it. The Jeffrey Epstein thing, supposedly he died on my birthday of all days, August 10th of 2018. And the FBI now, with fresh faces and fresh names, has come out and lied about it. And they had released a video saying that there was that he killed himself and that was all there was to it, but it had a missing middle section to it. And then they backtracked themselves and lied about it and said that, well, it's just a rollover from 11:59 to 12 o'clock, and that's just 1 minute of missing time. Well, we don't know what happened in that 1 minute, for one thing, but I think there was more missing than just 1 minute. I think they were just lying to cover themselves. And it's disappointing because, I'm a conservative. I voted for Donald Trump all three times, 2016, 20, and 24. But now I am finding out that I do fully believe that Donald Trump is a pedophile and has raped and had sexual encounters with teenage girls as young as the age of 13. Doesn't make me a liberal for saying that, and I think that we're caught up in this big political divide. I think that two big groups are hating on each other, and I think that the death of Charlie Kirk is really starting to get people to spend some time and energy into figuring out what's really going on. What's going on behind the scenes? Is this what the narrative is? Is it really Tyler Robinson murdering Charlie Kirk from 200 yards away with this older style rifle that just happened to be point blank spot on? Or is there more behind the scenes? And it appears there's definitely more behind the scenes. So let me extrapolate for you a little bit. So the media is basically the lamestream media, as Trump likes to say, or the fake news media, is saying that Tyler Robinson did this and that he carried the rifle with him off the rooftop and put it in by a bush. That's what text messages appear to indicate, that his now newly announced boyfriend, transgender, Lance Twiggs, I think is the name, if I'm getting that correct. And they lived about 3.5 hours away from Orem, Utah, where the murder took place. And the transgendered boyfriend, which you knew this would have it be rooted in transgenderism. I said that from minute one. All these false flags are anymore. Every single one is rooted in transgenderism. And he was saying that, yeah, the boyfriend, Tyler Robinson, left text messages saying that he dropped the gun off in a bush. And now we've heard out that there are engravings of phrases on these bullets, some of them on the casings inside the gun, one on one that was spent. It's too elaborate. It's too sophisticated. It's too set up for a 22-year-old to do, much less have the money to 3D print bullets with inscriptions on them. We saw the same thing in the Luigi Mangione case, which he is still in Pennsylvania State Prison right now. And the federal inmates there at the maximum security prison are all screaming out the windows as people are doing interviews. News Nation recently did an interview, and federal inmates were screaming out the windows saying that the living conditions were deplorable, that Luigi Mangione hasn't had a television, and this, that, and the third. But come to find out, Mangione was involved in the same kind of a slaying. It was Brian Thompson, the United Healthcare CEO, and a lot of people backed Mangione for doing it because Brian Thompson was not having people, not covering them for health insurance. And that's basically the same thing as political murder, and he wasn't being charged for murder, so they kind of supported it, what Mangione did, and there was a GoFundMe that raised money for him. And it's the same thing with this new guy, this Robinson kid, who now has a GoFundMe with a lot of money on it to help support his future charges, legal charges, and all this stuff. Because as the story evolves and unfolds, we heard yesterday and early today that it was his father, who works in law enforcement, that turned him in. But it wasn't really so much the father as it was a combination of the father and the transgendered boyfriend. But the thing about the transgendered boyfriend, Lance Twiggs, or whatever his name is, he didn't come out and say anything before the murder took place. People were trying to say, oh, he's a good person for turning him in. No, he knew this was going to happen. And I'm going to get to that. I'm going to tell you how that he knew that this political assassination would take place, okay? He didn't say anything to law enforcement before it happened. He didn't say anything to law enforcement in the immediate aftermath after it happened. He only did it because the cops were, or the FBI was looking into it. Now, the FBI is dirty. I've mentioned this. I've already talked about the video with Jeffrey Epstein, how Dan Bongino lied about it. Dan Bongino is supposed to be one of the good guys. He had that big podcast on YouTube. You know, I love Dan Bongino. And that's why I was so happy when President Trump came in. He got the election. He put Kash Patel at the top of the FBI and Dan Bongino as deputy director. I thought, okay, we're away from the Biden regime. This is all going to get cleaned up. The FBI is slowly going to get purged out. And no, it hasn't. It's more of the same. Because in this case right now with Tyler Robinson, you've got the FBI coming out and saying, oh, it's this kid. It's this Tyler Robinson. He did it. It's him. But we've now got raw video that he may not have been the one that fired the shot at all. That it was the guy who was standing right next to Charlie Kirk. I've got a video that is now being circulated on social media of these three guys who were his body security, his security team, and the one guy's tipping his white hat. Why is he wearing a white hat? You got to understand that. He's tipping it. That's military code for shoot. And the guy in the black shirt is playing with his arms right behind Charlie Kirk, directly behind him. And the third guy is an older guy, and he's standing to Charlie Kirk's right, and you can see his arms are folded, and you can see the gun being shot under the arms. And there's now a picture circulating on Facebook largely that shows that he's probably wearing body armor. He didn't used to wear body armor, but he had conversations with people saying, hey, Charlie, you're going to these events and you're not even wearing body armor. You know, we're living in a culture to where transgendered people and liberals will hate you for the message that you're spreading about Jesus Christ. This pro-conservative movement that he was doing called Prove Me Wrong under the Turning Point USA that he created and founded. And so I think he got it in his head. He said, okay, yeah, I'm going to start wearing body armor. And it looks like this picture on Facebook that's being circulated has him wearing body armor. You can't tell that he's wearing it, but you see something right here, and it's a black line. And a lot of people were speculating and saying, well, I think it's maybe part of a microphone, because he often would have a second microphone. Well, where's the rest of the cord? If it's a little bit like this is showing on the outside of the shirt, there's got to be a cord that connects to it. It's not a microphone. It's part of a slow motion video that's stopped in freeze frame, and it shows a bullet, what appears to be a bullet right here, that ricocheted off the body armor right here, and then from there went right here on the jugular, which we were all really baffled at first because it looks like the shot, we only heard one shot go off, and I believe that's all the shot that was fired was just one. And it looks like it would have been a direct hit right on the jugular. I kept saying femoral artery. I think my anatomy is a little off. It's been since 2013 since I had anatomy, but I think it's the jugular, whatever, I don't know. But either way, it looked like it was a direct hit from somebody who was trained. And the video that I showed on our last YouTube short, I believe it was, last night, shows that the older gentleman, I don't even want to call him a gentleman, shot him at point blank range as he's not looking into the side under his arm, and it appears to bounce off here and go up here, and he's gushing blood, and he loses 3 liters of blood in 3/10 of a second. Okay, so there's a lot to unpack with the transgendered boyfriend and Tyler Robinson. So they're avid gamers, these young men who are barely older than teenagers. Their brains haven't fully formed yet. Tyler Robinson is a trans supporter. He's living in a romantic relationship with somebody who is transgender, come to find out now. And as they're playing these games, they are being messaged covertly, of course, secretly, by somebody they don't know. And that's where it starts, okay, is these fake accounts. Well, Now, this is where the big news comes in, is because I've been saying for the last day and a half that this is Israel Mossad doing these murders, okay? Charlie Kirk has been always an Israel loyalist. He's been pro-Israel. Well, the last, week before he died, 2 days before he was murdered, he went on the Ben Shapiro and did an interview with him, and I can't stand Ben Shapiro. He's that Jew who, he just has a lot of negative opinions. I'll leave it at that. He's not one of the good guys. Charlie Kirk was one of the good guys. I had questioned at first if Charlie Kirk was a Freemason, because there are some pictures out there, and he could have been. I'm not saying he was or wasn't. I don't know. But I certainly don't want to diminish this guy's legacy, because the more videos I watch is him just talking great things about Jesus Christ and spreading the message. And this is what we need. We need more young men doing this. Because the devil is attacking us from all angles. So Charlie Kirk was doing great things. And if you are a Freemason, most of them don't really believe in Jesus Christ. Honest to God, they don't. You're going to see a lot of arguments about that, but they really truly don't, especially at the upper levels anyway. So enough about that. I don't want to expunge too much on that, but what I do want to talk about is how I think Israel Mossad is behind this murder, and how the FBI is directly lying to us about Tyler Robinson. Obviously, yes, he's involved. And my question happens to be, in the case of not just the Charlie Kirk murder, but all these transgender murders over the past few years, the past several years this has been going on, we're at over 10 now. Artificial intelligence will only tell you about 2 cases. They say, oh, it's only been 2 transgenders who've murdered people. That's not true. And I warn you guys with caution not to accept everything that artificial intelligence says is gold. It's not all true. It's a robot, and you're a human being. You are more powerful than this. Do not just accept everything that's put out in front of your face as truth. And that goes for my videos. That goes for anybody's content. Do your own research. But I'm out here trying to help people understand what's really going on so we can overcome this evil and so we can fight the devil head on. Okay? So that's a lot to unpack right there. And now all of a sudden, the Krasenstein brothers, if you do an internet search on the Krasenstein brothers, you're going to find out a lot. And I just looked at it for about a minute and just quickly scanned the latest stuff involving them. But they were allegedly messaging Lance Twiggs, the transgender boyfriend, on TikTok. Okay? Why would the Krasenstein brothers be messaging him on TikTok? Okay, so now you're starting to see the underlying stuff that when you want to identify people running fake accounts and who's doing it and the reasons for why they're operating in secrecy, now you're starting to get to the bottom of it, okay? So now you're seeing this play out, and the whole shooting has taken place. I think that Tyler Robinson was a patsy. I don't think he 3D printed those bullets. I don't think that this was all his idea. I think that he was a ploy in the bigger game. And why is the FBI not focusing on the guy who appears to have shot the gun right beside Charlie Kirk, who was supposed to be his security detail? Makes no sense. How does a guy climb off to the rooftop of a building again? It's the same thing in the Trump Butler shooting, where that was the very first rally where Trump asked Secret Service to come, and then all of a sudden they just let Thomas Matthew Crooks climb up to the AGR building along with Butler police. Apparently, I've really dug into it. They watched him walk up the stairwells and didn't do anything about it. How do you watch somebody who's carrying a gun, an AR-15, go up to the top of a roof and you let it happen? We saw Kimberly Cheadle get fired as director of the Secret Service then, and she had no answers. But do you really think that now that we have fresh faces and fresh names like Kosh Patel and Dan Bongino, that it's all changed? Because it hasn't. You're seeing it happen right now, real time. We've now lost a warrior in Charlie Kirk, and it's the same thing. It's the same thing on repeat. Thomas Matthew Crooks was beginning to undergo transition therapy, transgenderism. It's the same thing. He was, it was recorded that FBI agents were with him and his family a whole year and a half before the Trump shooting even happened. in his workplace as a cafeteria worker in an elderly retirement home in Bethel Park, Pennsylvania, and as well as his parents. His parents were counselors licensed by the state of Pennsylvania. These counselors are therapists. I've talked about it several times now. This is where it's all happening. And if you look at Tyler Robinson, his mother was a counselor. Well, she was a social worker, is all I've been told. I'm trying to bridge the gap here, but most likely that her job as a social worker is probably some type of a counselor, a therapist. That's the term I keep using for it. So there you go. There's your connection. Be really interesting to do a deep dive and a dig on his family. His dad is a law enforcement officer. He was part of the reason he turned him in, but what's really going on here? Are we going to get to the bottom of it? Is it MK Ultra? Is it brainwashing? Because that's what I've been saying. It has been for years. So, I'm going to release another YouTube short. We're going to analyze the book that was released on September 9th on Amazon about this killing. And Amazon, remember, was founded by Jeff Bezos. Jeff Bezos was the one who created the rocket launch that went up in the Blue Origin a few months back. That was a satanic ritual. I told you guys it was a satanic ritual. And a lot of you guys, some of you guys disagreed with me, but I've got proof in hand right now that it absolutely was a satanic ritual. So I'm going to release that on this YouTube short. Look for it here. It's coming out very, very soon. And we're going to keep talking about this Charlie Kirk murder because his voice is now amplified. He's not going to be quiet now. And a lot of people, let's hope, are shifting to the side of Jesus Christ and away from the side of Satan. Because we are in the last days, and I'm going to prove it to you that we are in the last days. Check this short out, and that's all I got for you guys. Until next time, as always, Godspeed, everybody.